Today on Sugar Spun Run, we'll be making chocolate cheesecake muffins. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I am so excited to be bringing you another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. Now, these chocolate cheesecake muffins debuted on the blog of 3-4 years ago, and they've always been one of my favorites, but I've gotten a little bit of feedback recently from people saying that they could use some more cheesecake in them. That is something I could totally get behind. I love myself some cheesecake. So I modified this recipe a little bit and perfected it so you have a perfectly balanced muffin, maybe not in a nutritious way balanced, but a well-balanced otherwise muffin that's the perfect amount of chocolate and the perfect amount of cheesecake. I think you're going to love this one, so let's go ahead and get started by preheating our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Today's recipe comes together really easily. In a large bowl, we are going to toss together 1/3 cup of, this is canola oil, but vegetable oil or any other neutral cooking oil would work. 2/3 cup of granulated sugar, 1 large egg, and we're gonna crack this right in the bowl, which you should not do at home. And it worked, no shell. And just a teaspoon of vanilla extract. We'll also be adding 1/3 cup of sour cream, and this is a full fat sour cream. Alternatively, you could use Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt. And 1/4 cup of buttermilk. Now grab yourself a whisk and we'll just whisk everything together until all of the ingredients are smooth and well combined. Set this aside, and in a separate bowl, I have 1 cup of all-purpose flour measured out. To this, we are going to add 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. I am using natural cocoa powder today. Lots of people ask me if I'm using unsweetened cocoa powder. I am. I've actually never seen sweetened cocoa powder available near me. Anytime I use cocoa powder, it is unsweetened. We'll also add 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of instant coffee. Now this is optional. It just enhances the chocolate flavor. You can leave it out if you'd like. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We'll whisk our dry ingredients together. And then we are just going to add these to our wet ingredients. You can add it all at once, but I do want to get rid of my whisk because we're not using that anymore. Anytime you are mixing together a muffin batter, you want to do so carefully. You don't want to overwork it or you'll get really dense muffins. And I'm just going to be using a spatula to fold everything together. Now right now I am aiming to combine everything about 75–80% of the way. Once I have the batter at that point, I'm going to add 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. I like to add the chips now because I don't want to wait until I've completely combined the batter. Otherwise, I run the risk of overmixing, which would leave me with dense muffins. All right, this batter is looking pretty nice, so we're just going to set this aside for a couple minutes and let's make that cheesecake layer. The first thing that you are going to need is 1 8-ounce brick of full fat cream cheese, and you want this to be completely softened to room temperature. Add 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, and because our cream cheese is so nice and soft, we can just stir it together. Make sure the cream cheese is nice and smooth. You don't want to have any lumps. Next, we'll add 2 tablespoons of sour cream, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract for a little bit of flavor. Stir these in until everything's nice and smooth. Finally, we'll add 1 large egg. I'm gonna take a risk again. I'm just gonna crack that right in the bowl. Today's my lucky day. Again, just stir everything together until this cream cheese batter is completely smooth and everything's well combined. All right, let's get to portioning out these muffins. Today's recipe makes 12 muffins. I have a 12-count muffin tin lined with paper liners, and we're going to start with our chocolate batter. Now we're going to portion out the chocolate batter into each liner, and we're only going to fill each liner about 1/2 of the way full. Now, when you are making these muffins, there's something that I want to mention real quickly. You can just drop the chocolate batter in the tray and just add the cheesecake right on top, and that's fine. You will have a chocolate layer and then you will have a cheesecake layer, but because the muffin is going to rise, that cheesecake layer is going to push to the sides. Still all there, still going to be delicious. However, if you would like a nice pronounced pocket of cheesecake in the middle, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna grab a spoon and you're going to want to make a little divot in the center of the muffin. Just carve out a little bit of a cavity. And once you do that, that's where you'll add your cheesecake. Some of it will spill over, but when you bite into that muffin, you're going to have a more concentrated pocket of cheesecake. Now the trade-off here is when you do make that divot, the muffins tend to collapse a little bit more after they've finished baking. So you can decide if you want those more flat. They're not really tall muffin tops, but you can decide if you're okay with a more caved in muffin, but you get that cheesecake pocket, or if you want your muffins to be a little bit prettier. Now please note, I did not use all of my chocolate batter. I still have some left. You should. That's important in order to do the tops of these muffins, which we'll get to in a minute. However, if you notice that any of your muffin liner, if you can see any of the bottom of the muffin liner, you just want to take a spoon and just spread that batter out a little bit so the entire bottom of the muffin is covered. All right, you should have a little bit of chocolate batter left, but let's go over to our cheesecake layer at this point. I am using a cookie scoop, and this is a 1.5 tablespoon size cookie scoop, and I am not being shy about filling that up, and I'm just going to disperse this evenly, 1.5 tablespoons over each or into each muffin liner. All right, now grab yourself a spoon and we are going to take that remaining chocolate batter and just evenly divide it over our muffins. I don't like to just plop it on top in one spot. I kind of like to spread it a little bit. We're going to be swirling the batters together and it just looks prettier if you have it spread out a little bit when you start. Okay, grab yourself a toothpick or a sharp knife and just gently swirl together the cheesecake and that chocolate that you just added. Finally, if you would like for a finishing touch, grab yourself a couple more chocolate chips and just drop those on top. I like to do about 3 to 4 per muffin. All right, let's take these over to our preheated oven where they're going to need to bake for about 22 to 25 minutes. So with most of my muffin recipes, I recommend using the toothpick test because it's the best way to really tell if something's done baking. Today's recipe is a little bit hard to do that with because you've got that cheesecake layer and you've got chocolate chips in there, but I do still recommend doing the toothpick test, but we're gonna do it a couple times. So just take a toothpick and insert it into the center of the muffin. And as you can see, I've got a lot of chocolate on here. However, that might be because of chocolate chips. So I am going to just do this a couple more times. And if any of my toothpicks come out clean, then I know my muffins are done baking. I usually do this 3 to 4 times. All right, on the second muffin, you can see that one came out clean. I don't want to overbake these or that muffin layer is going to be dry, which we don't want. So I am going to call these done and I'm going to let them sit here and cool for about 15 minutes before I dig in. Now, because these muffins have cheesecake in them, I think they are much better when they are refrigerated than when they are warm, but they can certainly be enjoyed warm. They can be enjoyed at room temperature, but if you're storing them longer than a couple of hours, you want to keep them in an airtight container in the refrigerator. And that is how you make one of my favorite muffin recipes. This one is nicely improved for you with plenty of cheesecake in the middle, lots of chocolate. I think you are going to love this one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. These are so good.